Matthew 25, there's 3 whole chapters here that's all about being ready. Jesus tells them, which tells us something. This is pretty significant, isn't it? Jesus spends significant time in this last couple of days, right before the crucifixion, when his passion all begins. And for 3 chapters, it's point after point. Be ready. Don't get caught off guard. And that's the challenge. Remember, did you hear it in here? The bridegroom was delayed. The bridegroom was delayed. So how do you be prepared and stay prepared when the bridegroom is late? Late is wrong. Delayed. God's never late for anything. We think so. God's not late. Delayed. So this is kind of the challenge just before us as the people of God. Because if I had a law point for us, because really the pieces I'm going to give you about how to be prepared, I don't consider those law or judgment or criticism. Those are joys, opportunities. God's given us these tremendous joys to be prepared. He's put them all in our hands free of charge. He's just given them to us. The challenge is, how do you live as if Christ is coming back? Like I'll tell Bible classes this sometimes. So St. Paul, the apostles, they all believed, the early church, St. Augustine, I'll go in kind of timeline here, Martin Luther, they all believed Jesus Christ was going to return. Second coming was happening in their lifetime. So I'll often ask classes, so were they wrong? Well, yeah. But they were right to live as if Christ was returning. And that's the challenge, I think, for the church today, is to live as if Christ actually is coming back. I think if we were to do an evaluation of our life, we might stop and say, boy, I wonder if I'm living in the way, living as if Christ is coming back. So what does that mean? Sell everything you have to go live up on a hill? It's kind of... Contemplate your navel, spend all your time in the back of our church. I don't know. What does that mean, to be prepared? So Jesus tells us. So let's talk about it for a minute. Or 25. Hey, do you know how many hours high school kids spend on screens per week? Do you know? Aaron told me this. 70. 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. Hey, adults, don't groan too much. You're not that far behind. No, I mean, some of you may be, very much. I'm afraid I'm on a screen a lot. I'm on a screen a lot. Do you know what the reason is? And it isn't just, well, I must be informed and I must do my homework. And I must, it's FOMO. Fear of missing out. That's the thing that's cited. I'm afraid I'm going to miss a text, a note, a notification. Something's happening. I won't know about it. Oh my gosh, I'll be out of the loop. I won't. It's fear of missing out. 70 hours a week, 10 hours a day that our high school kids are on that fear of missing out. And the thing that's interesting to me about that kind of tells me it's almost like this fear of not being prepared. It's a fear of being caught off guard. And I almost want to say, if only we Christians were that way. And not fear, but I don't want to be caught off guard. I want to be ready. I want to be ready. So I've told you in the past, I'm a New York City Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. Thank you very much. And on my Eagle Award, it has the motto, which is be prepared. Of the Boy Scouts, Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of Scouting, he was asked about that. And they asked him, they said, hey, tell me about this motto, be prepared, this Boy Scout motto. Prepared for what? And he said, well, any old thing. That was his response. Anything. Be prepared for anything. Here's the thing. So we got a wedding coming up this weekend. Pastor Von Bush and Pastor and Teresa Von Bush's daughter Shelby is being married. She's going to be here on Saturday. Check this out. They invited like 5 congregations to come to this. So it's like 800 invitations went out. And there's going to be like 400 people here. And there are 4 pastors, and there's music, and there's stuff, and there's so much stuff. It's so much stuff. And if they're watching, maybe they'll watch it. Someone will tell them, hey, you should watch Pastor Dinger tease you about your daughter's wedding. Anyway, I get to do the preaching, and I'm so honored to do that. But we got Pastor Settlemeyer coming, and Pastor Lissow, and Pastor Von Bush, and me. And Jim's going to be a hot mess. I'm taking video. It's going to be fun. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. You know what's one of the things I tell couples because I'll sit down and we'll work through their wedding. And I always tell them, look, I want this to be awesome for you. It's not about me controlling it. I want God to be present. I want God to be praised. I want your love to be honored. I want it to be awesome. But you're in charge. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you want. And I'll tell you if you're out of bounds. And so it's great. And it works out great. We have a blast. But something I tell them, sometimes some couples, and often it's typically brides more than grooms, spend a lot of energy. And when I say a lot of energy, think of that hyperbolically. Thousands of hours. They spend a lot of time prepping for the wedding. And when I see that happening, as gently as I can do it, I will say, I would really love it. I'm going to ask you to make me this promise. This is great. It's going to be a spectacular celebration. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to praise God. We're going to rejoice. It's going to be a great party. But I would love you to make me this promise that in the first year of your marriage, you would invest over that year the same amount of energy you invested in the wedding day. You'll be blessed if you do that. So here's my point. A lot of times when we think about being prepared, we think about being prepared for an event. Like Teresa and I went down, celebrated our 40th anniversary in San Diego, had a blast. I forgot several things. Had to go buy them. I wasn't prepared. I felt stupid. Oh, golly, now I got 2 of these or 3 because I forgot them other times too, or whatever it is. We kind of prepare for an event. You're going on a camping trip. You're heading out of town. You're going overseas, or you're just going to take care of your grandson for the weekend or whatever. I got to be prepared. I got to get stocked up. I got to make sure it's ready. So being prepared often is about an event. Let me say that's true. When Christ returns, I want to be prepared for his coming and welcome him with joy. But it also is, how do you be prepared like the Boy Scouts for any old thing? So I want to talk about both those things. So hang here with me a little bit. There's 3 things I really want to share with you here. So I want to give you the basics of being prepared. Don't fill in all the blanks. Are the blanks automatically filled in? Oh, that's cool. They are up there. You can cheat. That's awesome. So there's an old joke. I love this old joke. This Little League game. And I would do this all the time when I'm traveling and I'm walking around. I love to find tournaments and games and just kind of go down, and there's a bunch of kids playing, whatever it is, football, baseball. So there's this guy, and he sees a Little League team, and he coaches Little League back home, and he remembers his kids playing. So he goes down there, and as he's walking down, he's seeing this one team out there, and they are just destroying this other team. And he looks up at the scoreboard. It's 18-0. They finally get the third out, and the other team comes in. He walks down to the other team's dugout, and he kind of stands there, and he says, wow, 18-0. The kid who ran in from left field or whatever, he goes, yeah, I know, it's 18-0. The guy says, boy, you must be discouraged. He goes, why, discouraged? We haven't been up yet. So this is interesting. The first one on this is, here's the basics of being prepared. And I left one out. You're going to get a third one. If you take a note, you'll take a third one. First one is, no one knows the day or the hour. But we know who made the promise to come. Right? So you might tell your kids, hey, we're going to go to Disneyland. But I'm not telling you when it's happening. But you can be sure if I promise it to you, it's going to happen. If I said it to you, it's going to happen. What God is longing for us to be prepared is to trust in the one who made the promise. Nobody knows. And this is God's caution. I think God's chastisement in many ways especially of the Protestant church in America today, especially, is how much energy is often spent on trying to figure out when Jesus is going to come back. And I always love this. It cracks me up when somebody says, oh, you know what? He's coming back next Friday. I'm going, plan anything you want on that day. Because nobody knows. So if you think you got it figured out, then you think that you're more important than Jesus, who says, even I don't know. What Jesus is calling us to do in this parable is trust the Father. The first part of being prepared is trust the Father. No one knows. but God does. Second thing is keep watch. And then this is an interesting thing. The horror that we've seen in the world, a large part that's going to be discussed later when we've seen over in the Middle East, in Israel and Hamas, is that there was a major failure in keeping watch. Right? A major failure to allow people to breach those defenses and just horrifically seek to just exterminate non-combatants, children. Horrible. It was a failure in keeping watch. See, we live in an era when you can keep watch by sitting in your recliner. Because you got all these Zoom camera or Ring camera, whatever they're called. I don't know. I don't got them. But have cameras everywhere. So all you have to do on your phone, right, is go, camera. That's not what this is talking about. This keeping watch is active, not passive. This is a keeping watch that's active. And so the thing that, So the first thing, I got to back up for a minute. So when people say no one knows, trust in the Father, I think what Jesus is really saying there, so if you're trying to figure it out, please stop now and focus your energy on something more significant, and that's keeping watch. This kind of keeping watch is this. In the darkness, with the scary noises, with the shadows and the hurts, with the hospital visits, with the anxiety, with the loss and the brokenness, the window through which we look gets cloudier and cloudier and hard to see. And so what God is longing for us to do is to stand above, to keep watch. To keep watch for the one who is coming. I'm going to talk about this in point 3 a little bit more and what that looks like. But it's active. It's not passive. If we're sitting on our hands keeping watch, we're not actually keeping watch in the way that Jesus is talking about. It's the person who, because he loves those he's been charged to protect, loves them so much, he is watching with fierceness, or she, with fierceness, with intensity, with intelligence, with focus. Not with the intent of attacking, but of protecting and caring for and preparing. The third thing, and this is, if you jot notes, the third one is pray. And I didn't include this one originally because it's not in this text particularly, but when Jesus just a day later is in the Garden of Gethsemane that evening praying, remember what he says to his disciples? Boy, Simon Peter, I prayed for you so the devil won't get you. Come out here and watch with me and pray. Would you pray with me? And they don't, do they? And therefore they are unprepared, aren't they? They are poorly prepared. Jesus had provided a way for them to be prepared, and they did not prepare. And it isn't that it would be preventing some arrest, but they weren't prepared for what happened next. And why is that one? Why did I add that? Because the basics of being prepared is this: trusting the Father, trusting the one who says, trusting the Father. The second one is being active and not passive, because there are people we love. It's not just about you. And the third thing is pray, because in our prayers we learn the heart of God. Prayer is how we learn the heart of God. We talk about it here all the time at Grace. This is a busy place. Do you imagine that? If you only come here on Sundays, it's hard to know. Drop in sometimes. It's nuts. It's crazy around here. I mean, I am so proud to say this space here, in many, many churches around, this space only gets used 10% of the time. It's empty the rest of the whole week. Not here. It's going all the time. Our gyms are full, cafeteria's full, classrooms are full, playgrounds are full. And let me tell you what the number one rule is for us? Communicate. And when communication doesn't happen, people get ticked. And people are frustrated. And things don't happen right. And things go sideways. And so communicating is an absolutely key way, the basics of being prepared. So prayer, active watching, trusting the Father. Okay, second thing. So you've heard me say this before. So right now, I told my Bible class, I'm asking for prayers personally. With Pastor Chris in California, and the word I'm getting from him is he's having a lot of fun. and challenges, but he's having a lot of fun. God's blessing that. But the prayers I have is when people are going through hurt. So Bobby, we're going to lift you up, buddy, because his mom passed last night. And then Maddie and Jack and Richard, Kerr, Tanya passed away Thursday. We're praying for Cheryl, who's having a hard round with chemo right now. We're praying for Julie Cook. We're praying for Martha. In many of these cases, it's tough right now. And it's those hurts when they pile on one upon the next. It's a joy to serve, and I'm thankful for our family here because our family here rallies beautifully. But when we get to the memorial service, it's really interesting. Sometimes people, every once in a while, not very often anymore, but like if we talk about people coming to speak at the memorial, someone will say, well, can we just ask if anyone wants to speak? And I will say, no, I get what you want. I mean, you want people to say nice things about the person you love, right? But it doesn't often work out that way. And you know why? Because people aren't prepared. And so there's another reason why preparation is so important. I do tell people, I said, you want to honor somebody? Come up to them and say, you knew my mom as well as anybody I know. I won't be able to make it through it. Could you share a memory or two? Because that would honor my mom, and it would give thanks to God for her. That honors. Wouldn't you be honored? I mean, you might be terrified, but wouldn't you be honored to be asked to do that? And someone says, and you know what? 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, remember a few key things. People will remember that. And if you're well prepared, it honors that person, doesn't it? But it doesn't just honor that person, it honors everyone listening. And so being prepared for Christ's coming is not just about being prepared for us. It's about honoring the groom. It's about honoring the one who's coming to unite us to himself and others. Like in this parable, it can really get misconstrued. How am I doing? Okay, I'm doing okay. So this parable can get really goofed up because people will go, let me look what I said here. The bridegroom was a long time coming. They became drowsy and fell asleep. Some commentators go, don't be drowsy or fall asleep. See, that's the problem. They fell asleep. No, Jesus isn't saying that. Of course they fell asleep. Duh. But some were prepared when the groom came. That's really his point. You get this point? Other people will look at this and go, well, that's not very Christian of them to say, no, I'm not sharing with you. Right? Did you catch that? Well, why didn't you share? Well, because neither of us will make it then, is really the argument. Again, but it's like, so you can't compare that to like faith or love or, right? The oil. Because of course you share faith. I can't believe for you, but of course, anyway. So Jesus' whole point on this is being prepared. And when we're not prepared, it impacts others. Because here's the thing. I almost would have loved Jesus to have put this one and said, and there were 3 groups. And some some didn't bring extra oil, some brought a jar of oil, and some brought 2 jars of oil. And I'd like to be in that group so that when the bridegroom comes and I have someone saying, can you share with me? I can say, you bet. And so being prepared, there's being prepared for you. I got enough for me. There's not being prepared. I mean, I'm saying there's 3. There's not being prepared. Jesus is saying, don't go there. Don't come empty. Be prepared. And there's a way to do it. Or second one is, be prepared for yourself. Be prepared to share. And that's who the church should be today, because the groom is a long time coming. The groom he could come before the service is over. He could come when you're great-great-great-grandchildren, right? So how do we prepare? That really gets us to point 3, because preparation isn't just about us. Preparation honors the groom and others. Last thing, and again, forgive me, I think I've told you this before. In our new house and in our houses that we've lived for a number of years now, so my wife always has at least one nativity up. And I love this practice. I love this practice because the Nativity is all about God is coming. I'm talking to you today about second coming. That's what Jesus was saying. Be prepared for second coming. But when we put up a nativity, we're celebrating first coming. That God chose to come to a fallen humanity in a dark and broken world with broken hearts and came to redeem that world to himself out of overwhelming love, to fulfill his promises, his covenant promises, that we might be his own and be restored. That's what Christmas is. It could be about all kinds of other things, distracted from that, but that's what it's for. And so for us in our house, and I'm telling you that this is just us. In our house, whenever I see that nativity, I can be reminded that God is coming. He's coming the first time, and he's coming again. And so it's to be prepared today. So when I see that, I can remember to be prepared today, but also for generations. Because guess who we're telling now about why that nativity is sitting on there? I got a little boy named Luke that comes over to our house sometimes. And so I get to tell him, just like I told my daughter and my son and our friends. And so God is asking us to be prepared for today and forever and for generations. Here's how that happens. And if you jot notes, these are the things that I don't have on an outline. Here's what it means to keep watch. To know his voice. To know his voice. When we talk about active keeping watch, to know his voice. I want to encourage all of you, truly. And again, I don't want to be snarky. I don't want to be snarky at all. But if this is the only time you get in the Bible all week long, if this is it, it's not enough. I'm not giving you enough. I need to give you more than this, or others, or however you do it. That's how we know his voice. You want to hear his voice? There it is, his voice, not my voice, his voice. Second one is we want to recognize his face. And I'll tell you what, how we recognize his face. And if you're watching us online, praise God. We are so thankful that you get to. And I'm hoping that if you're at a distance from here, you get to be in the kind of body that we have here, because this is where I see God's face. I see God's face here. As we live out faith together, as we care for one another when things are hard, as we celebrate great victories, that's where I see his face. So for us to be together. And the third thing is and to be grateful. To be thankful that we have been invited. Invited to the table, invited to his home, invited to be his children. We have a voice. You want to be prepared? Being prepared, keeping watch. I'm not laying law on you. What a gift that God has given us his promise, that God has given us his family, and that by his own voice he invites us. There is no better way to be prepared than simply putting your trust in the Savior who is coming, who already came and already loved and will come again. To God be the glory. Amen.